Hello and welcome to High Motor Fantasy's second podcast. Today we're going to be talking all about preseason week 1, who stocks rose and who stocks fell. But first, to start out the show, I'm going to hand it over to AJ for his this or that keeper question of the week. So AJ, take it away.
All right, so I saw an interesting question on Reddit, and it was something that I wanted to ask you guys, see what you thought about this. When it comes to keepers, it can be a little complicated depending on your roster makeup from last season. And a lot of people who drafted George Kittle are in great spots because he was going extremely late last year. I've seen quite often in my leagues and in this question, he was going in the 13th round. So this person had a conundrum. They were saying, should I keep George Kittle in the 13th, which to me was a no-brainer, but then they had the other option of keeping one of Christian McCaffrey or Alvin Kamara in the 10th pick of the first round as well. So they could only keep one. And my answer was George Kittle. I thought the value of getting the amount of points he can put up in the 13th round extremely overweighed the value of getting somebody like a Kamara or McCaffrey, even though they are going to outperform the other running backs so much. But just the value you get for that, I just didn't think made sense to give up on Kittle. So what do you guys think? Was there a point in the running back side for those people that wanted to keep that?
I think there is a point in the running back side. I think it also kind of depends on where you're going to be picking. So is he going to be picking from the 10 spot then? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, sorry. So he was the 10th pick in the first round in a 12-team draft.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I would definitely take George Kittle in that situation just because of the value you're returning on that pick. Just the rise from that late of a pick to where he's being drafted now. Where is he now? Probably like third round. Is he really third round?
Yeah, third round.
Oh, geez. Well, yeah, right at the back end of the third round, it looks like. But yeah, I mean, you're getting so much return on that, and at the 10th pick, you can still probably. Well, I guess it depends on who everyone else's keepers are.
Right. Yeah, that's a solid point. If everybody else happens to have like stud running backs being kept or some good value of guys that maybe aren't in the first round, I guess the landscape could potentially shift that. I just think, it would have to be like an oddly specific situation for me to not want to keep Kittle in this situation. But there was quite a few people on Reddit that were for the Kamara McCaffrey side, which, I can understand. Those guys are studs, and if you can get them, whenever you have the 10th pick, that would be awesome. But one of the biggest concerns that people on the running back side had was, there's no way Kittle can do this again. There's just no way. And to me, I say, when you look at the way Kittle got most of his fantasy points, it was a lot of the yards after catch, and it was with guys like Mullins and mostly Mullins and Beathard, and they were. And their point was, well, he didn't have too much of a connection with Garoppolo, but that was such a small sample size. I don't think you can look at that and say, yep, that's going to extrapolate to a whole year. So I think long and short of it is Kittle, 13th round, is a great value.
A couple points to that. One, that's people who say he didn't have a good rapport with Garoppolo are just flat out wrong. When a lot of people bought into Kittle, including myself, where I spent $40 fab after week 1, he didn't have a good week 1. But I watched the game, and he had, I think, 11 targets. And he even had a couple where Garoppolo wanted to throw to him, but he literally couldn't. Garoppolo's going to throw to Kittle a ton this season. I honestly don't think his targets are going anywhere. I think they're going to be exactly the same as last year. And I think he can do exactly the same as he did last year with those targets. I don't think his production is going to fall off. I do think he is worth a 4th round, 3rd round pick in terms of, in a bubble, his value. Personally, for my roster makeup, I usually don't draft him, but he is a very valuable player. Now, second, it's always hard to answer these questions. I personally would take Kittle, but if you are in a situation where you look at 1 through 9 and all these guys have a Chubb, a Damian Williams, a Dalvin Cook, a James Conner going late, and then they all are going to draft a stud running back in front of you, and you're left with nobody.
Like Leonard Fournette.
That's what I was just thinking too.
That's a world where it's like, okay, let me just take Kamara. probably
You're
not
right.
the case. But you have to, if you're going to be deciding your keepers, you got to do more than just look at your own team. You got to look at the landscape of the league. A lot of times, like, personally in my leagues, I feel like a lot of times one guy ends up having Chubb, Damian Williams, all of these guys, so you don't have to really worry about it because he can't keep all of them, obviously.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Before you decide who to keep, look at what other people are keeping. That is tip number
Yeah.
one. But I'd go Kittle.
Right. Yeah. That's a great. Yeah. No. That's a really good point. The context of it is really important, and hopefully you can either deduce that by looking at the rosters. If you don't know who is being kept, I'm not sure how the league would be set up, but if you have that knowledge, more power to you. But if not, just take a look at your other league mates and see who you think could be kept. And if it does seem like a dire situation where you are left with taking like Leonard Fournette as you're in the first round because you need a running back, then yeah, I think that actually does make good sense to take a running back in that 10th spot. But for me, I'm just so in love with the idea of getting somebody in the 13th, like with just an absolute steal like that.
I would actually personally try and trade Kamara and McCaffrey. Maybe if someone doesn't have a guy they want to keep. If you, like, another very specific scenario, but if you're looking at the guy drafting 12th, right, and he has no one on his roster that you would personally keep, be like, hey, I'll give you Kamara. You got to keep him with a first-round pick and give me a 5th back. Like, try and get some value out of those guys you're not keeping.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea too. It just makes me so excited for draft season.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's close.
Our YouTube league is coming up. Our intro to that's coming, I think it's going to be out Thursday or Friday. All right, so preseason week 1 is in the books. A lot of stuff went on, but today we're each going to highlight one player that their stock for us personally is rising and one player in which the stock is completely falling. We're going to start with Kramer. Let's go with who's rising first. Let's be a little bit optimistic.
Risers.
Yeah.
Okay. Upward stonks. Okay. So my riser, and I'm in a little bit of a weird spot with my 2 picks because I picked 2 people that aren't playing currently, and probably won't see my riser the entire preseason. But my riser is Mr. Todd the God Gurley. He's been practicing every other day so far. Has had no setbacks yet. That's a little bit, I guess, better feeling than, I thought he was basically not going to be showing up at all. And then we're not going to see him in the preseason. And then we're just going to have to trust him. But knowing that he's been out there practicing, I'm pretty sure I saw some videos of him in full contact gear. I mean, he obviously has his helmets and pads and stuff on, but he wasn't wearing like the red jersey or whatever that most like quarterbacks wear. That's like the do not touch.
Yeah.
But that's motivating to me to take him. Also, I mean, the Rams offense is going to be one of the best in the league, obviously, when healthy. They have 3 excellent weapons. I think Gerald Everett is also a very good tight end. He's been doing really well this training camp and everything. Been seeing lots of videos from him. And even if he gets a reduced role, say his knee is fucked up more and he gets 15 to 20 touches a game, he could still get that much. And with Todd Gurley, he's going to get all the goal line work. He's going to get all the really productive touches. I don't think Darrell Henderson or anyone's going to be stealing his goal line work, or Malcolm Brown for that matter.
So
the true backup.
Right. So if let's say you're in a 12-team draft and your pick number 10, 11, or 12, in your first two picks, would you take Gurley there?
Oh yeah, I would take him. Depending on, obviously, kind of like how we were just talking a second ago, depending on who's behind you, I'd possibly take him in the first. The way I look at it is just like with this Zeke and Melvin Gordon holdout, and then Mixon's kind of had a couple setbacks with his line, and now it's just starting to look more and more appealing to me to take Todd Gurley that late and then have him just slay everyone else's team and still be a top 5 back.
So I guess the better question, since that's a yes, what's the earliest that you would take Todd Gurley right now in a redraft?
Ooh, the earliest? I honestly, once it gets to about I like him over James Conner.
Ooh.
I'd probably take him right at about like 9 or 10.
Okay, so like 9. That 9 is probably the earliest.
Yeah, I mean, I could. It's hard because you can wait probably a little bit. His ADP has been rising for sure, but a lot of people are still hesitant to grab him. But
Mhm.
I would obviously prefer to get him with as my second pick, wherever that happens to be. But if I have to take him in the first, I like him over a lot of those guys. But I'd still probably end up taking a wide receiver.
I see why his stock is rising, and I kind of felt this was going to happen as soon as the preseason started up. Also, shout out to Darrell Henderson for looking awful, which helped Gurley. He did not look good in that Rams game. Partially, McVay's never going to call any good plays. He literally could care less about the preseason. However, what's going to happen is people forget the nature of Gurley's condition. It's not an injury. It's a condition in which literally any play. It's not. I have to research it more. I don't know how much of arthritis is actually workload related, or if it really can be just all of a sudden his knee's gonna flare up, like putting pressure on it, and that scares me because it's not like, oh, we'll limit his touches. I think even if you limit his touches, he still has a really good chance of just one day his knee flares up, he's out, for the next 6-7 weeks. I mean, the guy, the biggest thing for me is he didn't play in the Super Bowl. I mean, that's the game. That's the thing that you're trying to achieve as a
how many
football
touches
team.
at that point, though? Like, probably over 400 touches at that point.
That's very true. He had way too many. And again, I have to do my research. I have to really look into how much is workload going to be related to this condition. Is it something that reducing a workload is drastically reducing the chances of a flare-up? Or is it more of there's not much you can do about it. It's going to happen if it's going to happen.
Yeah,
Right.
I think I think
that's
by
a good point.
reducing the workload, it should technically, just by a percentages standpoint or whatever, reduce it.
It would make sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's technically the math behind it.
Yes. All right, AJ, who is rising in your eyes?
So for me, looking at the 49ers, and it's not just because of it's in large part because McKinnon being out, but also with Pettis, all the talk in 49ers camp is that Dante Pettis is just not having a great camp, and that Deebo Samuel is pushing him for reps and to be that starting wideout, which does, I mean, you can't help but be a little concerned with the negative news like that. You never want to hear that. You'd rather hear, oh my gosh, Garoppolo and Pettis, they have the best connection since, but so because of this, I'm
since peanut butter and jelly.
take your pick, since who was, did Dalton ever play with or Palmer ever play with T.O. whenever T.O. was a Bengal for like 2 days? But anyways, Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida, I'm moving both of them up, and I'm it's tough to say this because I was never high on Tevin Coleman with the Niners, but the more I see their situation, the more I think that they're going to have to be the playmakers in that offense. Just seeing, the bad news about Dante Pettis, I'm not eating that up too much, but to me it just seems like, okay, if that truly is the case, and there hasn't been a whole lot of positive reports about Pettis, to me that then you look at George Kittle being a good option, which I'm not rising him up at all, but I like him more at his ADP. But Coleman right now is like a 5th, maybe 6th rounder, depending on who you're drafting with. That is a great value for a guy who's probably going to be leaned on in the offense. When you look at the weapons, it's they're loaded with rookie wideouts. Marquise Goodwin might not make the team, and then it's Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida. And Matt Breida is obviously the steal out of the bunch here. He's right now going in like double-digit rounds, and hopefully that can stay that way by the time everybody else is drafting. However, I just think that hype will soon catch up to him, and maybe at the most you can get him in like the 9th, and even then I'm still excited about taking Matt Breida in my drafts.
Well, I think you also got to mention Jerick McKinnon is probably going to start on IR. That's going to be the biggest thing raising Coleman.
Of course, yeah. Him being out, but honestly, just with the way that his rehab was kind of, I kind of baked that into his stock already, just because there was no good reports about McKinnon coming out, but that IR just solidified that bump as well. Yeah. Okay,
so AJ, at what point does Coleman not become a value for you? Because I think with the news being very public now, because we
He'll
we
probably
all
rise to like the 4th round or something.
yeah, because we all felt that McKinnon wasn't gonna play that much. We kind of
Right.
all had that feeling, but now that everyone's like out there that
Aware.
McKinnon is not gonna be starting, where do
Mhm.
you draw the line? You're like, all right, that's way too high for Coleman, or that's too high.
So if I have an early pick and the 5th round is, I'm one of the first people picking in the 5th round, depending on how that running back landscape looks, and I would consider taking Tevin Coleman there, just because I think that the way we talk about scheme with certain coaches a lot when we talk, and Shanahan is definitely someone who knows how to get efficient use out of his guys, and Tevin Coleman didn't impress whenever he was given that backfield in Atlanta. We all expected him to put up Devontae Freeman breakout numbers. At least I did. I was super excited about that, and then was left pretty disappointed. But I think that they're going to put him in situations to get the ball out of the backfield, in a pass catching situation for both Tevin and Breida. I would feel more comfortable taking him in the late 5th than the early 5th, but there's it's somewhere in that 5th round for me is where I would, I'm looking to take Tevin. I'm not going to take him in the 4th.
Okay.
Tevin Coleman or James White?
Oh,
Coleman.
that's good. I'm such a James White guy. I'm going to take James White over Coleman.
Tevin Coleman or Lamar Miller?
Coleman.
Yeah, that's
Despite
kind of
the
where
fact that
I'm
I think
Tariq Cohen or
Breida
Tevin Coleman.
I think Breida's more of a threat to. I mean, not a threat. I mean, he's just a factor, really. I mean, there's no threat of him taking. I mean, Breida is going to be a part of that offense. We just got to look at what Duke Johnson's going to do, and I think that he's an exciting weapon for the Texans. I know you guys aren't quite as excited about Duke Johnson on that Texas team as I am, but I mean, whenever your option was it's Lamar Miller or Duke Johnson, I mean, Duke Johnson looks like the shiny little sports car compared to Miller, who's like a soccer mom van.
He's the Peter Ford.
He's all reliable.
So wait, I think Kramer asked a good one. Cohen or Coleman?
Oh,
These are all guys going around the same ADP. At least running backs.
wow. I would probably go Coleman. I think that Montgomery is looking
Yeah, he looks pretty good.
really, really good.
That was
I think,
unfortunate.
and I'm still a Mike Davis believer. I think Mike Davis is going to have some sort of role in that backfield as well. Cohen's still going to get his. Don't get me wrong. I think with the way that Montgomery looks and how excited they are about him, I think Cohen is maybe more of a best ball guy right now compared to a redraft.
Okay. All right. Well, it's funny to me, before I go on to mine, in a bubble, if you were in a league where like ADP wasn't just terms of value, who I'd rather have on my team, taking everything else
Right.
out of it, I honestly rather have Breida on my team than Coleman. It's just you can get him 5 rounds later.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it would feel pretty ugly having both of those guys. It would not be.
yeah, you don't want both.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, so my turn. I'm gonna go with Chris Godwin. He looked. All right, this actually.
Two gods. Todd the God and Chris God.
Kramer, you gotta stop doing those and making me laugh. I need to get to my point. This is not about Chris Godwin looking that good. That run was great on the screen pass. This is about the fact that Jameis Winston looked very much improved. It's preseason. There's not a lot of pressure, obviously. They weren't running crazy plays, but he looked accurate. He looked like he knew what he was going to do with the ball. He looked like he knew what his reads were.
It's a trap.
No, it's not a trap. We're starting to see what Bruce Arians brings to a team. We've been saying this the entire offseason, especially me. I've been harping on it. Bruce Arians brings a better offense to that team. It's going to have the same passing volume, if not more, but just going to be way more effective. I think you saw the first glimpse of it this preseason game. Jameis Winston just looked so much more composed than he normally does. I don't know if you guys personally felt the same way, but I sure did. I think the offense is going to run smoother. And Chris Godwin looked really freaking good. I mean, his routes looked crisp. That run on the screen looked great.
Evans
we
wasn't
know-
out there this game, was he?
No, Evans didn't play.
Yeah. I was gonna say he got a lot of targets.
we we know what Chris Godwin brings to the table, but you're right, Matt. It's really about what can Arians do for Winston, and what I, Winston had a really nice scramble in that game that kind of reminded you of how athletic he can be when a play breaks down and he has to do it himself. Who knows if maybe Arians' philosophy is, take off, kid. If you see something or you don't like the way something looks, I don't know, but I do trust what Arians can do for Winston. And Godwin right now is in a really. I thought he was priced really well when everybody's ADPs came out. I thought I was going to be able to get Godwin at a lot cheaper, but he was priced pretty fairly coming out, and I don't think he's really rose or fell too much right now.
He's at the 410 right now. He's going around Kenny G.
I was going to ask him or Kenny
Robert
Golladay.
Woods, AJ Green, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd, those type of names.
So, just to put those guys in the...
Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp I like a lot, but the rest of those names are debatable.
Yeah, I was personally going to say Woods, Kupp, and then Chris Godwin is slotted in there for me. Or AJ Green. I'm actually pretty
I'd
high
still
on AJ
probably take
Green.
AJ Green.
Yeah. I've said this before. I don't mind having 8 weeks of a wide receiver 1 instead of 14 weeks of a wide receiver 2, especially in the 5th round. I feel very comfortable doing that, usually with my team makeup. Okay, not to put you guys on the spot, but I think we can each do 3 super quick guys that rose a little bit. I'll go first, give you guys a little bit of time to think about it. 3 guys for me. James Washington looked really good. None of the news has been good coming out of camp. Moncrief getting more snaps than him. The fact that he can't beat out Moncrief, who was terrible. But personally, I thought he looked really good in the preseason game. Indirectly, Dalvin Cook. As a Viking fan, I watched that whole game, and Alex Madison did not look good. In fact, Amir Abdullah and Mike Boone completely outshined Alex Madison. But I think that really raises the stock of Dalvin Cook. If Alex Madison can't get the job done, that means Dalvin Cook's going to be getting even more volume. And then an easy one, David Montgomery. I personally was very skeptical of him coming out of college, but he looked
Same.
Yeah, he looked pretty good in that preseason game against NFL caliber players.
Yeah, that was a good one. I've been a Tariq Cohen guy, kind of trying to put the truth out there that I think Tariq Cohen was going to be more involved than he was last season and get a lot more touches, but after seeing that was I might have to take a little hit to my projections.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to mine. It's like Tariq just got a knob turned down a little bit, Montgomery a knob turned up. If you guys just have 1 or 2, you can go ahead.
I'll get one out the way. I thought Kenyon Drake looked really good in the Miami game.
Thank you, Kramer. That's what I like to hear.
I was like a little bit nervous going into watching that game because I was like, okay, from everything we've heard, Kalen Ballage has been like the first team guy, blah, blah, blah. And then they come out there and Drake's in the backfield like basically the entire first drive, and the offense looks okay, what's his name? The new quarterback. The new old Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh, Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Ryan Fitzpatrick was throwing crazy balls, and some of them were getting completed, and then they'd hand it off to Kenyon Drake, and he'd make a good move or two. He had a couple pretty decent, 9-yard runs that made my willie start to go up.
Kenyon Drake does that. He's
Fitzmagic,
so
man.
good. He's just such a good running back. He just needs the opportunity. I'm telling y'all. All right, AJ, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, just a point about the Dolphins. I think that Fitzpatrick. This is probably just me being a bad football fan and fantasy analysis, but I'm just so excited to see what the fuck Ryan Fitzpatrick's gonna do with the Dolphins, because he's gonna put up a 350-yard
throw
game,
this ball
3
across
touchdowns,
them hills.
no picks, 29 for 33, just the most insane shit. And he's probably gonna make us want to believe in Devontae Parker, but we've got to say no to that. But the thing that does kind of worry me, though, with Drake is I don't know how much Fitzpatrick really looks to check down. He's just slinging that
doesn't.
shit. So hopefully they can get some design passes for Kenyon Drake. They've got some smart guys over there. So they just hired some Patriots coaches. So hopefully those guys can use him effectively. But as far as my guys that I'm excited about, so this one didn't play in the preseason, but the more I look at this team, the more I'm super excited about pretty much every offensive weapon for them, and that's the Seattle Seahawks. And the guy that I'm really excited about, that I've just been all over in best ball right now, is Tyler Lockett. I just think that he was impossibly efficient last year. That's obvious, right? But I think that his volume is going to go up because the way that Seattle played football last year, it looked like you took their data from like the 1970s. They ran the ball so much, and I just don't think there's any way that they run the ball that much again. And who's going to benefit from that? Hopefully the backfield can get some catches out of the backfield. That would be great. We just heard Pete lying possibly about Chris Carson having great hands ? But Russell Wilson is going super late, and before last season, he was like a lock for a top 5 quarterback pick. So so that's kind of a cheat. The Seattle Seahawks in general, I just think you've got to be excited whenever you see those guys when it's your pick and they're around your ADP. Don't be afraid about Tyler Lockett busting. I don't think there's any way that happens with the makeup of that team. Even whenever Pete Carroll does decide to call a pass, it's going to be there for Lockett. And then while I'm here, let me just say Jalen Hurd is a man. I don't know if you guys have seen him, but he is a stud. And, and I talked about Jerick McKinnon being out and why I think that helps Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida's stock. Trent Taylor just had foot surgery. He's going to be out, I think we said the 4 to 6. So while that's not a huge amount of the season, we don't know how quickly he's going to come back. He was projected to be the slot receiver. That was pretty much set in stone until he had this surgery. So it's next man up, and Marquise Goodwin is not getting glowing reports. Like I talked about before, Dante Pettis hasn't quite had good reports, although I would be shocked if he's not a starting wideout. And then after that, it's going to be probably Deebo Samuel. And then that third wideout's kind of up for grabs. And Jalen Hurd has looked great. He is a physical specimen. He's someone that, especially Dynasty, he should probably already be on your radar. But just for a late-round look, I think, just be aware of the Jalen Hurd hype and don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, another couple quick ones. I got Austin Eckler. Looked really good for a little bit. Fumbled it on the goal line. And then Justin Jackson came in, scored. Looked pretty good for him. I also thought Tyler Boyd looked pretty good with AJ Green out. He got a lot of targets.
And he looked good with those targets.
Except for he fumbled. Or no, it was overturned, I think.
Okay. All right. We're talking about Dante Pettis. I think we're going to go right into my falling stock. And also, one thing I want to point out, going all the way back to Drake, I know we talked a little bit since then. This is a number for you. I do think recency bias has an effect on us, and Ryan Fitzpatrick last year had horrible running backs and therefore never threw to the running backs. In 2015, that awesome season with the Jets, he threw to his running backs 129 times. Now, it's not a crazy amount, but it's not nearly the amount that Tampa Bay, I think he was averaging 1 target a game to the running back. So
was that to Matt Forte and Bilal Powell?
Bilal Powell and Chris Ivory. Blast from the past.
Or Isaiah Crowell.
That wasn't even the Forte year?
No.
Wow.
The Forte year, he threw a lot to him. So I do think Fitzpatrick doesn't mind doing that. Then again, he could just be getting older and saying, screw it. Who knows?
I miss Matt Forte, man.
He was a great player. I miss having him on my teams. Don't miss him playing against the Vikings in Chicago. All right. My falling stock, Dante Pettis. So high on him. Okay, it's been a crazy roller coaster of a ride for me personally and Dante Pettis. Started out the offseason, I don't know, guys. I don't think he's that good. He didn't look that good. Rewatched some tape, here's some hype. I'm like, okay, I can get behind this guy, especially as ADP. As ADP starts to rise, I hear even more hype from the coaches. I'm like, all right, I'm still rocking with it. Then all of a sudden, training camp starts, and it goes dead quiet for Dante Pettis. No one's even mentioned his name. I mean, you have to understand, I'm in the Bay Area. I'm listening to sports talk radio all the time. They're constantly bringing up different beat reporters to talk to. I don't think Dante Pettis has been mentioned one time. It's all been Trent Taylor and Jalen Hurd news, which means to me it seems like the offense is going to run a lot out of this. Like the slot receiver is going to be very crucial for this offense, and small little dump off passes are going to be a big thing. On top of this, is he like the fact that is he that good? Like he's a decent wide receiver, but is he worth where he's starting to go? When we really have no clue how involved he's going to be in the offense. I mean, he played well when he did play last year, but it's a completely new year. We now know exactly what Kittle can do. Shanahan knows what Kittle can do, and he's probably going to get more, going to be more of a focal point throughout this year. Those running backs, I mean, you don't pay Coleman that kind of money and McKinnon that kind of money if you don't plan on using them quite a bit. You got Breida out there. You have Deebo Samuel, who I think is a good wide receiver. Jalen Hurd looked incredible. I personally think Marquise Goodwin makes the team. I'm no longer on the Dante Pettis train. His ADP has flown way too high to the point where I'm not comfortable taking him. I mean, and if it goes back to where it started out this offseason, around the 9th round, maybe I'll start to think about it. But at this point, I feel like I'm kind of just throwing a dart based off of some comments we heard from the coach. And like a very, very small window of last season. And that's,
yeah.
I don't know.
He's going around Alshon Jeffrey, Robbie Anderson, Allen Robinson, Christian Kirk.
Exactly. All
Will
those
Fuller
guys.
Fuller a
I'm
little
taking
ways
over.
down, Marvin Jones, Larry Fitz.
I'd rather have every single person you listed except
Sammy Watkins, Geronimo, Curtis
I'll say-
Samuel.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, would you
say
take
when.
Geronimo or Dante Pettis?
I would rather have Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I would probably take Pettis over Geronimo.
So yeah, that's
I
back there
love
like
MVS.
mid-8.
I love MVS, but if Allison is going to be playing the slot like it's being projected, A-Rod loves this slot, guys. It's going to be hard. And Allison didn't play a whole lot last year. I believe he had an injury. Is that right? He only played like a few games. So I've been leaning more and more over Allison over MVS, but I know that they're around the same area.
But you
Love 'em
listed
both.
a bunch of guys I'm at this point way more
Yeah.
high on. Like Marvin Jones, we know what he can do and we know his role in the offense. Christian Kirk, we saw him play almost a full season, looked really good with a horrible offense. Like he put up pretty darn good numbers with that offense. Imagine what he's going to do with an air raid. And you guys are super high on Kyler Murray in that offense. Obviously taking Kirk over him. I think the only guy you listed now is thinking, was Larry Fitzgerald, because personally at that point, I guess I'd rather take my shot with Dante Pettis being a breakout over Larry
But
Fitz.
that's like
it.
in the 8th round.
Exactly. And that's not, where's Pettis going? I don't have
608.
Yeah. I'm not drafting Dante Pettis. There you go.
Yeah, that should definitely adjust by, in 2 weeks. You would assume that falls. I mean, that should catch up to him fairly quickly.
And I
would
do
imagine.
want to, Trent Taylor is out, but he is only out 4 to 6 weeks. And it's not so much Trent Taylor, because I don't think Trent Taylor's a great wide receiver. I think it's just Shanahan's really going to make that slot wide receiver a focal point, and it's just going to be whoever's in that slot position. So Jalen Hurd is going to get the same kind of hype that we were hearing Trent Taylor getting the past couple weeks. Anyway, we'll move on. AJ, who's fallen for you?
You kind of took my guy there for my faller.
This is why we put it in the Discord who we're taking beforehand, AJ. All right, Kramer, who
Tag
do you
me
have?
in. All right, so my faller is going to be Mr. Aaron Jones. Unfortunately, I was pretty high on him at the start of the season. He's projected to go, I believe, running back 4.
He's going at
right now?
the middle of the third to the end of the third in terms of overall.
Yeah, I mean, he's right at the start of the third, 304 right now. I think earlier in the season I had him decently higher. I mean, when a player moves like 7 or 8 spots basically up in the top of the draft, that seems like a really big move. Just because of all the names that are jumping around there have so much value. But at the start of ranking everyone, I kind of had him up there in the Damian Williams territory, which is about 4 or 5 spots above him, because I was really expecting and hoping that they would come out and Matt LaFleur would say he's our guy and he's going to get all the touches. If he can't do it, no one can. Blah, blah, blah. But he has not. He's done the opposite. Matt LaFleur said they're going to use a committee approach, and it's going to be him and Jamal Williams. Now, Aaron Jones has been out for, I guess he was out for 6 practices, and he's just now returning. He had a hamstring injury, which are always scary because you think of Dalvin Cook last year where he just had, it's just a hamstring injury. And then all of a sudden it's like, he's not playing for like half the season.
Oh, no.
He's never really fully back to healthy. And then, he gets a flare-up halfway through the season. And I'm just starting to see all this. He's not getting much hype coming out. And I'm starting to move guys. Like, I moved Carry-On over him. Leonard Fournette, I'd probably take over him. Devonta Freeman, I'd definitely take over him. I'd probably take Marlon Mack over him now, too. So he's starting to fall into that range of probably right above Josh Jacobs. I'd take him over Josh Jacobs and Montgomery and Henry. And Carson I like a lot, too. And he's way back there. But it's just, he used to be up there.
Yeah,
but now he's not my best friend anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't. My friendship has ended with Aaron Jones. He just doesn't seem like is just too safe of a pick to me for as high as he's going. I mean, he's very volatile. He could, if he is the man of that offense, there's obviously great upside there for Aaron Jones, but I just don't think he's a super safe pick right now. There's always something going on with him off the field. Seems to always be dealing with some type of injury, and they have the backfield to replace him. They have Dexter Williams and Jamal Williams, sorry. So I mean, they can easily replace him. So that does kind of worry me with as high as he's going.
You argue with Kramer on this
Do
one.
it, bitch.
All right, I'm a little scared now. Maybe I don't want to. The thing is, we worry about, I think, after Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, everyone else in that backfield is horrible. Can we all say that?
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say I wasn't overly impressed by anybody else behind Aaron Jones. I was so excited about Aaron Jones for the first time I saw him.
But somehow he's still getting work. So
No, I completely agree with that, and I understand that. The thing is, Jamal Williams has a worse hamstring injury than Aaron Jones does.
yeah,
I completely, there is a world where if Jamal Williams is hurt, Aaron Jones could explode. Like, he could be I honestly think he could be a top 5 back if Jamal Williams isn't there for a decent part of the season. I mean, Aaron Jones had almost Kamara-like efficiency numbers last year. I think, what was his yards per touch were 5.9. His yards per carry were 5.5, and his yards per reception were 7.9. Those are pretty darn good. I mean, his yards per reception could go up a little bit, and I think it will in a Matt LaFleur system. But that...
Ooh, but just think of that name, Matt LaFleur, Derrick Henry. Ooh.
Exactly. So they'll overuse Aaron Jones. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just nervous he's going to do the same thing he did last year with Derrick Henry and Deion Lewis, where he's just throwing people out there, and then he finally figured it out at the end of the year, and then maybe you're able to get some use out of Aaron Jones. And I agree that I think he's really efficient and a great player, and I wish he would be getting the full workload because then I'd be able to push him back up there. But everything I'm hearing sounds like he's not going to get that workload I want.
All right. No, I mean, I think we both have good points. Obviously, I think I have a better point, but I can definitely see why the stock's falling. I'm personally still in with Aaron Jones. Maybe not as ADP, but that's partly because I swear I've not had a single mock, especially with real people's on Yahoo Fantasy Football Calculator, where he didn't drop to the end of the third. I haven't really seen him go at 304, which may speak volumes to you saying his stock is lowering. It might, hopefully it lowers with everybody, so then it, adjusts and his ADP makes more sense.
I've seen him go late third mostly.
Yeah.
I'd feel fine taking him late third, but I mean, yeah, early third, I'd rather, again, although Leonard Fournette's also injury prone, I like his volume. I like Devonta Freeman's offense a lot, and I think he's going to get a ton of volume. Same with Marlon Mack. It's right around that Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, Derrick Henry area that I'd feel a lot more comfortable taking him.
Exactly, and that's where I guess I'm thinking of him more because I would take him over all those guys. You're right. I'd rather have Freeman. I'd rather have Kerryon Johnson, which is on Fantasy Football Calculator right now. That's where his ADP is. That's just personally where I haven't really seen him in drafts. All right, AJ, you've had plenty of time. What's it gonna be?
Sorry, I had a brain fart. I know exactly who I was gonna say, and it's sort of obvious, but I wanna name it's Damian Williams. However, I don't think it's going to be quite as serious of a volume concern as I think the fantasy community is making it out to be. So if you didn't hear, Andy Reid just came out and said that, it's going to be a running back by committee. We're going to do that for sure. And then Carlos Hyde just came out and he got the goal line touchdown in the preseason because Damian Williams wasn't playing. So now there's all this spook, what are we going to do? And Darwin Thompson looked pretty good, and Mecole Hardman had that nice little end around. But Damian Williams right now is not a second round pick to me. I do think that he's a good running back. Like I do. I don't think that he's a mediocre guy that was just well. I don't think he's just like people just think he's a mediocre guy. He just he's a backup and they put him in, and of course he was good because it's the Chiefs offense. And yes, Andy Reid produces great running backs, but Damian Williams is not a slouch, and I still think he's going to be the main volume getter, but Carlos Hyde, I think, is going to be sniping a lot of touchdowns from him this season, and that is a huge, huge part, obviously, of a running back's value are those touchdowns. So while I think Damian Williams will get some, catch some balls and help his floor, I do really, really worry about those goal line touches.
By the way, news right now. Sean McVay on Todd Gurley says he's feeling good, looking good, basically.
Oh, feeling good, looking good. You got some arthritis in your knee. It'd be a lot cooler if you didn't. It's Matthew McConaughey.
I just want to echo everything AJ said. That's how I currently feel about Damian Williams. I get another guy that's been a little bit of a roller coaster. Like, I didn't think he had the talent. And I'm like, but that opportunity in Kansas City. And now all of a sudden I'm back on I don't think he has the talent.
He's a riskier pick. If you take someone who's really safe with your first pick, he'd probably be a good person to pair with that to give you really good upside. I mean, he's definitely an upside pick where it could bite you a little bit, but I still think he's worth where he's at.
I really like
the end of the second.
Darwin Thompson as a dynasty play. If you have
do too.
Late round. Because if he ends up being the guy for years to come with Patrick Mahomes there and Andy Reid, you're getting, the value. Because right now in Dynasty Startups, he's not going where I think he should go. Anyway, that's a story for another day. Maybe we'll do a Dynasty episode before a Dynasty draft.
Dynasty.
The Dynasty draft. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We hope we give you some decent fantasy advice. We hope we're a little bit entertaining. And we hope that AJ will get his stuff together next time. See y'all.
Later.